Chapter 1: The Contracted Smile. The hotel bar was the kind of place where no one ordered beer. Everything came in a glass with a name longer than the ingredient list and a garnish that cost more than most meals. The room was quiet, sleek, flooded with ambient jazz and hushed voices. The lighting, low and deliberate, made every corner feel like a secret. Aiden slid into the booth 5 minutes late on purpose. He didn't believe in being early to meetings where he was being judged before he even opened his mouth. Let them wait. Let them wonder. He wore a crisp navy shirt, sleeves rolled up to reveal lean forearms, and a silver chain that glinted just beneath his collar. His dark hair was mussed just enough to suggest effortlessness. Hazel eyes scanned the man across the table without apology. Elias Cade, the infamous corporate wunderkind. Sharp suits, sharper tongue. Rumored to be brilliant and insufferable in equal measure. He sat as if carved from glass, perfect posture, untouched whiskey in front of him, eyes as cold and clear as winter steel. "You're late," Elias said, not bothering with a handshake. Aiden smiled, teeth bright and expression unreadable. "You noticed. That means you cared. We're off to a great start." Elias's expression didn't change. He gave Aiden a once-over so cleanly impersonal it stung. "You come recommended, but I'm skeptical. I don't do well with unpredictability." "That must make dinner dates hard," Aiden quipped, leaning back, stretching out his legs like he owned the place. "I don't date," Elias replied smoothly, "and I'm not looking for one. I need a companion. Temporary, professional, convincing." "Wow, you make it sound so romantic. Do I get a leash too?" Elias's mouth twitched at the corner as if amused, but the smile never reached his eyes. "There's a corporate retreat in 3 weeks. 3 days, off-site. Clients expect me to arrive with a +1, preferably someone who doesn't embarrass me." Aiden raised an eyebrow. "So you want arm candy with a functioning brain?" "I want discretion, polish, and silence unless prompted." Aiden placed a hand on his chest in mock offense. "Silence? That's so anti-me. What if I see someone with bad shoes? You expect me to just let it go?" "I expect you to pretend to care about me, and I'll pretend to believe it. That's the agreement." Aiden leaned forward, eyes sparkling. "And if I happen to enjoy pretending, will that be a problem?" Elias didn't answer immediately. He picked up his glass, took a measured sip, then set it down with clinical precision. "You're not what I expected." "Likewise," Aiden said. "I expected more Botox and less personality. Pleasant surprise." There was a beat of silence. Then Elias sighed. "1 week trial. Full pay, upfront. During that week, you'll attend scheduled functions, shadow my day-to-day, and begin preparations for the retreat. If it doesn't work out, we end the arrangement. Clean break." "Any fine print I should know about?" Aiden asked, swirling the untouched wine in his own glass. "You'll have access to my home, my schedule, and limited interaction with my staff, but there will be boundaries." His eyes hardened slightly. Clear ones. Aiden tilted his head. "You always this warm and fuzzy on first dates?" "I'm not paying for your charm," Elias said flatly. Aiden grinned, all teeth and challenge. "No, but you'll end up liking it anyway." Elias tapped his fingers against the table. "You're insufferable. And yet here you are, hiring me." Another pause. "I'll send over the contract tonight," Elias said. "I expect punctuality moving forward." Aiden raised his glass in a mock toast to punctual fake relationships. Elias didn't drink. He stood instead, buttoned his jacket, and left without another word. Aiden watched him go, then let out a soft whistle. Well, this is going to be fun. The next morning, a black car pulled up outside Aiden's apartment. He'd barely stepped out onto the curb when the driver, an older man in a charcoal cap, nodded politely and opened the door. Inside was a slim leather folder with Elias's signature scrawled across a sheaf of papers. Contract, schedule, access codes. A sticky note was attached to the last page. "You're expected at the penthouse by 7. Don't test me." Aiden smiled. "Oh, Elias, testing you is half the fun." The penthouse was exactly what Aiden expected. Minimalist, intimidating, and absurdly spotless. The kind of space that looked like no one actually lived there. Marble countertops, art that screamed, "I was expensive." No clutter, no personality. God, it's like a billionaire's Pinterest board had a migraine. Aiden muttered as he walked in. Elias was standing in the kitchen, sleeves rolled up, typing something on a tablet with precise fingers. He looked up as Aiden entered, eyes narrowing ever so slightly. "You're early." "Look at me, already improving." You've read the contract? Skimmed it. I assume I can't sell your secrets to tabloids or nap in your bed uninvited. Correct. You'll use the guest room. You'll have access to the schedule via the shared calendar app I sent. There are 3 events this week. 1 dinner, 1 fundraiser, 1 gallery showing. Aiden plopped down onto the nearest bar stool. Yay. Pretending to be fancy. Elias returned his attention to the tablet. You'll need to dress appropriately. I'll provide a clothing allowance. I already own clothes. Good ones. I do high-end emotional damage for a living, remember? Elias actually looked at him then. Really looked. You're remarkably self-aware for someone in your profession. Aiden shrugged. It's called survival. Elias closed the tablet with a soft click. Let's be clear. I don't need companionship. I need control. You're here to smooth edges, mine and theirs. That's it. Aiden walked over slowly, deliberately invading Elias's space just enough to be noticed. Control's a lonely game, he said softly. For the first time, Elias flinched. Barely, but it was there. You're not here to analyze me, he said, stepping back. No, Aiden agreed, already walking away toward the guest room. I'm here to pretend to like you. Just don't be shocked if I end up doing it by accident. Later that night, Aiden sat on the guest bed, scrolling through Elias's shared schedule. Meetings, events, private dinners. Everything slotted into perfect blocks. He wandered out to the kitchen in bare feet, grabbing a glass of water. He expected silence. Instead, he found Elias on the balcony, bathed in golden light from the city below. Sleeves still rolled, shirt slightly wrinkled. Aiden leaned against the doorway. Don't you ever sleep? Elias didn't turn. Don't you ever knock? Aiden stepped onto the balcony anyway. Balconies don't have doors, genius. Elias glanced at him. Do you enjoy pushing limits? Do you enjoy setting them? Their eyes locked, and for one suspended second, something fragile passed between them. Recognition, maybe, or the promise of future chaos. Aiden smiled. Elias didn't. But his gaze lingered, and that was all the permission Aiden needed. Chapter 2 of Bluffs and Breakfasts. It started with the robe. Aiden wore it like he owned it, silky black, monogrammed with Elias's initials on the chest. He strolled into the kitchen barefoot, yawning, hair a charming mess. His lean frame moved with easy confidence, utterly unbothered by boundaries. Carmen, the cleaning lady, let out a delighted laugh when she saw him. You must be the infamous companion. She spoke in Spanish-accented English, eyes twinkling. Late 60s, short and round with a wit sharp enough to cut diamonds. Aiden grinned as he reached for the espresso machine. Infamous already? And here I was trying to be mysterious. You've been here 3 days, and I've already had to reorganize the silverware twice. I'm just helping this place feel more like a home and less like a luxury coffin. Carmen slapped his arm gently with a dish towel. You're going to give Mr. Elias a heart attack. Don't tempt me. I think that might be the only way to get an emotion out of him. As if summoned, Elias entered the kitchen, immaculate in a navy suit, tie knotted with surgical precision. He paused mid-step, eyes landing on Aiden leaning casually against the counter in his robe, sipping espresso. Is that mine? Elias asked, tone flat. Aiden didn't miss a beat. Yours now, mine later. Sharing is bonding. Carmen ducked her head, laughing silently. Elias exhaled through his nose and reached for his own mug. Don't rearrange anything in the kitchen again. I made it better. You made it impossible to find anything. Aiden blew on his coffee. I'm whimsical. Adjust. Elias opened his mouth, then thought better of it. He took his coffee and walked out. Carmen gave Aiden a look. He's never let anyone speak to him like that. Aiden winked. That's why he keeps me around. By day 4, Aiden had attended 2 meetings, observed Elias shut down a room of executives with 3 words, and accidentally insulted a billionaire's haircut during a lunch break. Elias pretended not to notice, but Aiden caught the flicker of amusement each time he made someone laugh. The company brunch was a quarterly affair. Casual, but with enough sharks in the room to draw blood. Aiden wore a gray suit with a plum tie, hair tamed just enough to pass as polished. He stood beside Elias with an arm lightly brushing his back, eyes attentive. When Elias spoke, Aiden watched the way his jaw clenched. When Elias faltered for a second, an uncharacteristic lapse during a presentation, Aiden stepped in with a smooth joke that drew laughter from the table. Later, by the refreshment table, Greta cornered him. She was petite, mid-40s, and had the sharpness of someone who'd survived a decade working with Elias. She looked Aiden up and down, arms folded. "I've seen them come and go," she said, no hello. Aiden sipped his juice. Them? Dates, companions, image boosters, whatever he decides to call them that week. "Let me guess. I'm different. You're persistent, but he doesn't let anyone in, and when they try, he makes sure they regret it." Aiden leaned closer, dropping the smile. Maybe he's never met someone who knew how to push back. Greta stared at him for a long second, then unexpectedly smiled. "God help you." The charity auction was held at a gallery filled with sculptures made of wire and stone, none of which Aiden understood. He stuck close to Elias, who looked like he'd rather be performing root canal than mingling. Aiden worked the room like a seasoned socialite, smiling, touching arms lightly, remembering names. Elias was a ghost beside him, appearing only when necessary. Then came Clayton Ward. Mid-50s, tanned like leather, CEO of a rival firm, and an asshole dressed in cashmere. Well, the elusive Elias Cade, and with a date this time. Clayton's voice was slick with condescension. Elias gave a tight nod. "Clayton, and who's this? You finally bought yourself some charm." Aiden's smile didn't waver. "No charge for the charm, just doing a public service, softening the sharp edges." Clayton's laugh was cold. "Must be exhausting. I've worked with Cade. Man's a robot with better suits." Elias's jaw tensed. Aiden stepped forward, close enough that Clayton blinked. "I think it's fascinating," Aiden said lightly. "People always mock what they can't intimidate. Elias may not smile for cameras or kiss asses, but at least he doesn't need to inflate his ego with cheap shots at people more competent than him." Clayton stared. Aiden clapped him on the shoulder. "Also, the sculpture behind you? Looks like a pretzel with abandonment issues. Maybe bid on that instead." He walked away with Elias in tow, leaving Clayton stunned. In the car ride home, Elias was silent for several blocks. Then, "Thank you." Aiden looked out the window. "Don't get used to me being nice. It's not in the contract." Another silence. "I liked that sculpture," Elias muttered. Aiden snorted. "Of course you did." That night, Elias stayed later than usual at the office. Aiden, bored and restless, waited in the lounge. He'd scrolled through every news app, eaten 3 cookies Carmen had left on the counter, and even watched a 10-minute video about antique typewriters. By midnight, he curled up on the office couch and dozed off, Elias's blazer draped over his chest. Elias returned at 1. The light was still on. His steps slowed at the door. Aiden lay there, lips parted, lashes curled against his cheek. The blazer looked almost like a blanket, and for a second, Elias imagined it was. Something ached deep in his chest. He stood there longer than necessary, eyes tracing the lines of Aiden's sleeping form. The curve of his mouth, the way his fingers clutched the edge of the couch, like he was trying not to drift too far. Softly, Elias turned off the light. He didn't wake him. He just let him stay. The countryside wrapped around them like a still photograph, rolling green hills, sun-drenched meadows, and the long, winding road that led to the glass and stone estate perched high above a private cliffside. The house was a marvel of architecture, open, angular, symmetrical to a fault. The air smelled of pine and distant lavender fields, and the silence was too loud. Aiden stepped inside first, blinking as the pristine chill of the place settled into his bones. "Wow," he said, his voice echoing against the spotless white walls. "It's beautiful, like a luxury prison, you know, if the inmates were emotionally repressed billionaires." Elias followed behind him with a bag slung over one shoulder, sunglasses tucked neatly into his shirt pocket. "It's efficient. Quiet. Everything I need." "Everything you need," Aiden repeated, looking around. "But nothing you actually live with." The vacation home had no family photos, no stray coffee mugs, no blankets thrown across couches, or half-read books on the tables. Everything was symmetrical, untouched, soulless. The furniture was the kind you admired from a distance but never sat on. A house designed to impress and conceal. Aiden dropped his bag by the door and walked straight into the kitchen. "We cooking tonight? Or are you one of those frozen meal types?" "I cook," Elias said simply, opening the fridge. It was fully stocked, every item precisely arranged. He handed Aiden eggs, bread, and some herbs. "You're trusting me with food? Bold. You're supervised." "I burn things on purpose sometimes. Makes it more exciting." Elias ignored him and turned toward the stove. Aiden set the toaster wrong on purpose and charred the first 2 slices of bread. "Oops," he said, waving smoke from the toaster with a wooden spoon. Told you I was whimsical. Elias, meanwhile, moved through the kitchen like he belonged there. Rolled up sleeves, loosened collar, bare forearms flexing as he whisked eggs into a bowl. He chopped shallots with terrifying precision and flipped an omelet without breaking it. Aiden stared. Okay, that's actually hot. Elias shot him a glance. You're insufferable. You're secretly a domestic goddess. Admit it. They ate at the kitchen island. The silence between them was soft. Unspoken things passed through glances and smirks. Aiden stole a bite off Elias's plate just to see if he'd flinch. He didn't. Later they argued about music. Elias preferred silence while working. Aiden insisted that silence was a slow death. I'm playing something, Aiden said, grabbing Elias's phone. You can hate it, but you can't veto it. Give me that. Nope. This is a democracy now. The music that filled the house was old soul. Marvin Gaye, Aretha, Otis Redding. Warm, emotional voices pouring into cold, empty corners. Elias didn't say he liked it, but he didn't turn it off either. That night, they both fell asleep on the L-shaped couch in the living room. Aiden on one end, Elias on the other. Feet tangled, bodies slack with exhaustion, and something that felt suspiciously like comfort. In the morning, Aiden was the first to stir. He blinked at Elias still half asleep across from him. His sharp features softened in sleep. There were no lines between his brows, no tightness around his mouth. He looked young. Human. Aiden stood, padded into the kitchen, and started making coffee. Burned toast again, for fun. Elias appeared 5 minutes later, tie already half done, hair wet from a shower. You didn't burn it this time, he said, mildly surprised. Didn't feel like chaos yet, Aiden replied. They ate in silence. Then Aiden said suddenly, Do you even like yourself? Elias's fork paused midair. Excuse me? Aiden leaned forward, eyes direct. All this, power, control, polish, I get it. It keeps the world from getting in. But when you're alone, do you even like being in your own head? Elias's face froze. His voice came low. You're not here to psychoanalyze me. You hired me to be real, remember? Aiden said. You wanted convincing. This is what it looks like. I wanted silence unless prompted. Maybe you need to be prompted. Elias stood so fast his chair scraped against the marble floor. This isn't your place. You don't get to ask those questions. Aiden didn't flinch. Someone should. Leave. What? I said, leave. I'll send a car. Go back to the city. Aiden stared at him. He'd seen men shut down before. But this was fear, not anger, and that made it worse. He stood without another word, walked to the guest room, and began packing. Flashback. A younger Elias stood in a hallway filled with shadows. At the end of it, his father was dumping a cardboard box into a fireplace. Photo albums, loose Polaroids, an old wedding invitation. The boy, 16, still too young to hide his heart, reached for one of the albums. Don't, his father snapped. Those are dead things. But Mom's in here. His father turned, jaw clenched. Love is a liability. You want to survive in this world, Elias? Stop carrying corpses. Burn them. Move forward. Elias had watched the flames swallow every face he used to know. He never touched a photo again. Back in the present, Elias stood in the empty kitchen, watching Aiden zip up his duffel bag in the reflection of the window. You're just going to go, Elias said, quieter now. Aiden didn't turn. You told me to. That's not an answer. Aiden looked over his shoulder, expression unreadable. You don't want the truth, Elias. You want something shiny and forgettable. You want a fantasy that doesn't fight back, but I'm not going to sit here and pretend this, whatever this is, doesn't affect me. Elias stepped forward, his jaw tight. You were a job. Aiden laughed once, hollow. You don't even believe that. Silence stretched between them, tense, thin, tearing. Then Elias grabbed him. The kiss wasn't gentle. It was rough, almost desperate, one hand at the back of Aiden's neck, the other on his waist, like Elias didn't know how to hold someone without breaking them. Their mouths clashed, breath hot, a gasp between anger and longing. And then Elias pulled away, eyes wide, hands retreating like he'd touched fire. This was a mistake, he whispered. Aiden's heart sank. He nodded slowly. I figured. He walked out of the room without another word. Night fell. The house was quiet again. Elias sat in the kitchen alone, whiskey glass untouched, shirt unbuttoned at the collar. Shadows pooled around him, the soul music still playing faintly from earlier. He didn't move, didn't call for Aiden, didn't fix it, until he walked to the fridge. There, taped crookedly to the silver surface, was a Polaroid. Aiden, smiling in the kitchen, toast in hand, mid-laugh. The sunlight had caught in his hair, golden and soft. Scrawled across the bottom in black ink, "Proof I was here. Proof you were too." Elias touched the photo like it might vanish, and for the first time in years he felt something split inside. The mask had slipped, and now he wasn't sure he knew how to put it back on. Chapter 4. Trouble in the Mirror. The mountain air was sharp and clean, the sky an endless sweep of soft gold bleeding into blue as the car wound up the gravel path toward the villa. Nestled between slopes of pine and polished stone, the estate overlooked a private lake that sparkled like glass. Guests were already arriving, valet lines forming, luxury vehicles snaking around the wide driveway like sleek metallic animals. Elias stood at the edge of the foyer, shoulders stiff beneath a dark coat, his eyes fixed on the arriving car. It pulled up. Aiden stepped out slowly, sunglasses hiding his expression, overnight bag slung over one shoulder. His hair was a little longer than before. His walk was the same, unapologetic, like he belonged anywhere he chose. Elias didn't greet him with a smile. "We have a contract," he said. Aiden pulled off his sunglasses and met Elias's eyes. His lips curved, but the warmth didn't reach them. "Good to see you too." Inside the villa, everything was curated perfection. Rustic beams, velvet accents, soft lighting, and rooms so large they swallowed sound. Aiden was shown to the room adjacent to Elias's, a convenience, they'd said. He unpacked slowly, methodically, refusing to let his hands shake. The first day passed in a blur of handshakes, business buzzwords, and forced laughter. Aiden played his part with precision, charming but not overbearing, affectionate but not clingy. He laughed at Elias's driest jokes, filled in gaps with grace, and remembered every board member's spouse's name without a hint of effort. Elias, for his part, kept a practice distance. But when introducing Aiden, he always said the same thing. "This is Aiden, the one who makes my life tolerable." No one questioned it. No one dared. That night, Aiden sat alone on the edge of the terrace, a glass of wine in hand, the wind playing with his hair. He wore black slacks and a burgundy button-up left teasingly unbuttoned at the top. His skin glowed in the candlelight from the reception tables below. "You always this good at pretending?" a voice asked. He turned. Julian. Early 30s, son of one of the more powerful CEOs attending, all white teeth and effortless confidence. He leaned against the railing with a martini in hand, eyes lingering too long on Aiden's throat. "I'm great at pretending," Aiden said with a shrug. "I had to be." Julian stepped closer. "You and Elias, real or performance art?" Aiden sipped his wine. "Does it matter?" Julian's grin widened. "Not to me." The days that followed blurred in luxury and tightly wound tension. Aiden caught Julian watching him more than once, by the pool, in the hallway during meetings. Harmless flirting, but intentional, provocative, meant to stir. And Elias didn't say a word, until the gala night. Everyone was in black tie, laughter echoing under the fairy-lit canopy strung over the courtyard. Aiden stood near the bar, glass of champagne in hand, lips tilted in a smirk as Julian leaned in close, whispering something near his ear. Elias watched from the opposite side of the room, his knuckles white around his glass. Greta, nearby, raised a brow. "You should either punch something," she said quietly, "or say something." "He's baiting me," Elias muttered. "He's succeeding." Elias didn't respond. He turned and walked away, but the seed had been planted. Later, as the music faded and guests wandered toward their suites, Aiden stepped outside to clear his head. The cold air bit at his skin, grounding him. Elias found him leaning against the stone wall of the courtyard, alone. "Having fun?" Elias asked, voice low. Aiden didn't look at him. "Define fun. Julian's not your type?" Aiden let out a dry laugh. "You think you get to weigh in on that now?" "He's using you to get a rise out of me." Aiden turned then, eyes sharp. "And what if I let him?" Silence. "You're not his type," Elias repeated, colder this time. "And I'm not yours either, remember?" That struck harder than Elias expected. His jaw clenched. "This wasn't supposed to be complicated. You hired me to pretend to care and then panicked when I actually did. Now I'm just keeping up my end of the contract." Aiden's voice cracked on the edge, but he swallowed it. Elias stepped closer, hands clenched at his sides. "I didn't panic." "You kissed me," Aiden whispered, "and then you called it a mistake. You don't get to play the victim." "I didn't say you were a mistake. No, you just made sure I felt like one." A beat. Then Elias grabbed him. The kiss exploded between them, furious, aching, months of tension unraveling in a moment of heat and hunger. Aiden shoved him back, then pulled him closer. Elias's hands found Aiden's waist, fisting into the fabric of his shirt. Aiden moaned against his mouth, teeth scraping his lower lip. They stumbled blindly through the nearest door, some unused guest room, barely lit, smelling of cedar and clean linen. Elias pushed Aiden against the wall, mouth trailing fire down his throat. Clothes fell, barriers shattered. It wasn't soft, it wasn't sweet, but it was real. When it ended, they lay tangled in silence, breath uneven, bodies still buzzing. Elias reached out, fingers brushing the back of Aiden's hand. But Aiden didn't take it. He rolled out of bed, wordless. The sun crept through the window like a slow betrayal. Elias woke to find the other half of the bed cold. He sat up, blinked, then saw Aiden standing by the window fully dressed, black turtleneck, coat draped over one arm, suitcase already zipped. "I didn't think you'd leave," Elias said, voice rough. "I didn't think you'd let me," Aiden replied without turning around. Elias swung his legs over the edge of the bed. "Last night." "Wasn't part of the contract," Aiden said softly, "so I'll save you the trouble." He turned, face composed, eyes dry. "You don't have to fire me. I'll make it easier." Elias stood. "Aiden, I quit." Then he walked out the door, and this time Elias didn't stop him. Chapter 5. Absence hurts louder. Elias's penthouse felt colder without Aiden in it. Not physically. No, the temperature control was still perfectly regulated. The glass walls still held the skyline like a silent painting, the espresso machine still hummed in the morning, and the living room remained untouched, every pillow perfectly arranged. But something essential was missing. Carmen noticed it first. She stepped into the kitchen that Tuesday morning, paused by the counter and squinted at Elias standing shirtless in gray slacks, stirring his coffee without drinking it. "You look like someone murdered your favorite book," she said. Elias didn't look up. "I don't read fiction." "Explains a lot." She set her cleaning supplies down. "You know, you could at least pretend to look human." He said nothing. She tilted her head. "He's been gone 5 days, Mr. Cade. 5. I'm aware." She wiped down the countertop a little more aggressively than usual. "And you've rearranged the spice rack 4 times. It was a mess. It was alphabetical. I preferred it by frequency of use." She stopped and folded her arms. "You can organize your entire life down to the second, but you still let the best thing that's happened to your frozen self walk out the door?" Elias's hand froze mid-stir. Carmen softened. "He made this place feel like someone lived here." He set the spoon down with a soft clink and walked away. Greta found him 2 days later in his office, lit only by the glow of his monitors. Aiden's file still sat open on his desktop. Name, photo, the initial contract. Elias hadn't deleted it. She closed the door behind her. "You're working through weekends now?" "I've always worked weekends." "No, you used to work during weekends. Now you're trying to erase them." Elias didn't turn. "Did you need something?" "I need you to admit you're an idiot." He finally looked at her. "You hired someone to act like they cared," she said, voice even. "And when he did, you punished him for it. What exactly are you afraid of, Elias?" He swallowed, jaw tight. "He made things complicated." Greta leaned forward, eyes softening. "You keep pretending like complications are poison, but you're not a machine. You're a man who's been lonely for so long, you don't remember what it feels like to be held." Silence. Then she dropped the real blow. "He got a job offer overseas. 2-year contract. Leaves Sunday night." That hit something Elias hadn't realized was still raw. Greta placed a piece of paper on his desk, a flight itinerary. "Decide fast," she said, and walked out. Aiden's apartment was a world apart from Elias's penthouse. It was small and cluttered, books stacked in uneven towers, old mismatched mugs, warm amber lights instead of cold LED panels. A faint scent of cinnamon and laundry clung to the air. The couch was old, the blankets were worn, but the place breathed. It was lived in. It was real. Aiden opened the door without a word, still in pajama pants and a hoodie too big for him. His hair was messy, his eyes unreadable. Elias stood on the threshold, suddenly unsure. "I wasn't sure you'd answer." "I almost didn't." They stood in silence. Then Aiden stepped back. "You've got 5 minutes." Elias entered. The living room was filled with traces of Aiden, half-finished drawings tacked on the wall, a guitar resting on the chair, takeout boxes stacked beside the sink. Aiden crossed his arms. "What do you want, Elias?" Elias looked around. then met his eyes. To apologize. Aiden blinked, startled. You weren't a job, Elias said. You were never just a job. Funny, Aiden muttered, voice low. You called me one when it hurt the most. Elias stepped closer. I didn't know how else to protect myself. I've spent years building walls so high even I can't see over them. But you, he hesitated. You scared me. Aiden's lips parted. I wanted you, Elias said. And not because you were charming or good for business. I wanted you because you walked into my life and lit it on fire. And I didn't know how to survive the burn. Aiden's eyes shimmered, but he didn't move. Elias looked down. My father taught me that love was weakness, that feelings were leverage. He burned every photo we ever had. He told me memories are liabilities. I'm not a memory, Aiden whispered. I know. Elias's voice cracked. You're the only thing I've wanted for real, and I ruined it. Aiden looked away, jaw clenched. Wanting me isn't enough, he said. Choosing me is. Elias stepped forward, closing the distance. Then let me choose you. Let me try again. But Aiden shook his head, tears brimming now. I got offered something. In Italy, they want me as a creative coordinator for a startup. It's a fresh start. 2 years. Elias flinched. When? Tomorrow night. Silence dropped between them again. Then come with me, Aiden added, half joking, half hoping. Elias didn't answer, so Aiden nodded. Thought so. The airport was a blur of faces and fluorescent light. Aiden stood at the gate, boarding pass in hand, backpack slung over one shoulder. He looked exhausted. Hollow. The attendant called for final boarding. Aiden stepped forward. Aiden! He turned. Elias was running, tie askew, coat flapping behind him, out of breath and wide-eyed. Security yelled, but he didn't stop. He reached Aiden just before the gate closed. You're insane, Aiden breathed. You were never hired, Elias panted. You were found, and I am not letting you go. Aiden blinked, stunned. I don't want the silence anymore. I want the noise, the chaos, the fucking toast you keep burning. I want it all. He grabbed Aiden's hand. Don't get on that plane. Aiden stared at him for one long, suspended second, then dropped his boarding pass and kissed him. Hard, certain, real. Elias kissed back like a man who had almost lost everything, because he had, and he wasn't letting go again. Chapter 6, yours. No contracts, no exit clauses. The house on the cliff didn't feel sterile anymore. Aiden padded through the kitchen barefoot, a smear of flour on his cheek and bean, a mischievous golden retriever mix curled up on the rug near the sink, tail wagging in lazy half circles. The curtains were open, letting in warm afternoon light, and the old soul playlist Aiden loved drifted through the speakers, Marvin Gaye crooning softly about second chances. Books now lined the built-in shelves. Not decorative ones, but real, dog-eared novels and business manuals. There were mugs that didn't match and throw pillows that clashed horribly with the leather couch Elias had once insisted on keeping sleek and bare. One corner of the living room had been overtaken by a mess of houseplants. Aiden promised he was definitely not killing. Elias sat at the dining table, glasses perched low on his nose as he sifted through quarterly reports. His once perfectly organized planner was now littered with sticky notes in Aiden's handwriting, sarcastic reminders like, "Don't forget to be less terrifying at lunch with Greta," or "Bean needs a butt rub. Urgent." He glanced up as Aiden leaned to the doorway, holding a burnt tray of something that might have once been garlic bread. I was gone for 6 minutes, Elias said dryly. The toaster betrayed me, Aiden replied. Again, you were using the oven. Your energy is very unhelpful right now. Elias smirked, stood, and took the tray from his hands, setting it on the counter before pressing a kiss to the corner of Aiden's mouth. You smell like smoke. You smell like spreadsheets. Touché. They bickered over whether or not dinner was salvageable. Elias offered to order in. Aiden claimed that would be an insult to his culinary journey. In the end, they compromised with wine and cheese and a questionable salad. Carmen visited on weekends now, by choice rather than contract. She brought tamales, judged their taste in furniture, and threatened to adopt Bean every other month. You boys better be making time to enjoy each other, she'd said last week, pointing a finger at Elias. You've got that look again, the one that says your brain is already in Q4. He's been better, Aiden replied, nudging Elias with his knee under the table. I'm a work in progress, Elias had offered. Try harder, Carmen said, and then hugged them both tighter than either admitted they needed. Aiden's consulting firm had taken off quickly. He worked from a sunlit office that doubled as a reading room, cluttered with design sketches, business plans, and a constantly half-eaten bowl of candy. Greta had become one of his first clients after leaving the corporate world. Now she helped startups find their identity, and Aiden helped make sure they survived long enough to matter. Sometimes he caught Elias watching him through the glass door, just standing there, arms crossed, eyes filled with quiet pride. "You're staring again," Aiden would tease. "I pay the mortgage," Elias would reply. "You pay the mortgage because I let you win that one argument. You threatened to put a disco ball in the foyer. Still might." They fought about wallpaper and faucets and what to name the spare room. Aiden wanted the soft room. Elias insisted on the nothing room. Eventually, Bean claimed it as his own, and the debate ended in a treaty drawn on a napkin and signed with mustard. They were ridiculous and happy. It was a Thursday evening when Elias came home early. Aiden was on the couch, legs tucked under him, dog at his feet, flipping through a photography magazine with soft jazz playing in the background. Elias set his briefcase down and walked over without a word. Aiden looked up. "You look suspiciously thoughtful. I have something for you." Aiden narrowed his eyes. "Is it a dog sweater?" "No. A neon sign that says Live, Laugh, Love?" Elias handed him a slim leather folder. "Open it." Aiden blinked, sat up straighter, and took it. "This better not be more estate paperwork. I swear, if there's a mortgage appendix in here, I'm setting fire to your tie rack." He opened the folder. Inside was a photo, faded and worn but cherished. A Polaroid. The Polaroid. Him, mid-laugh, toast in hand, sunlight glowing around his hair. Next to it a printed picture, crisper, warmer. Them, tangled in bed, half-covered by sheets, Elias asleep and Aiden watching him with the kind of expression people only wear when they've stopped running. And then, tucked between the two, a handwritten note on thick cream stationery. "I'm yours. No expiration date. No clauses. No out." Aiden stared at it, lips parting, eyes burning. Elias sat beside him, hands folded. "I wanted you to know that you were never a temporary thing. Not a contract, not a convenience. I choose you, every morning, every night, even when we fight about cereal placement." Aiden let out a wet laugh, his throat tight. "You mean when you sneak the good cereal into your office drawer?" Elias smirked. Irrelevant. They sat in silence for a moment, the weight of a year settling between them like gold. Then Aiden set the folder down, climbed onto Elias's lap, and pressed their foreheads together. "You could have just said I love you." "I wanted to be thorough." Aiden kissed him. It started soft, gentle, reverent, the kind of kiss that says thank you and please never go. But it deepened quickly, hands in hair, bodies flush. Elias carried him to the bedroom, leaving the folder and Bean behind. That night, they made love slowly. No anger, no desperation, only want, only choosing, only the certainty that they belonged, not because they were perfect, but because they'd stopped running from what they wanted most, each other. The fireplace flickered softly. Later, they lay curled on the couch, Aiden's fingers combing lazily through Elias's dark hair. Elias's head rested in Aiden's lap, his eyes closed, his tie long since discarded. Bean snored on the floor beside them, curled into a tight cinnamon bun of peace. "Still scared?" Aiden whispered into the quiet. Elias opened his eyes, soft and sure. "Not with you." And for the first time, Elias Cade, the man who never let anyone in, felt like home.